What? Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. Excuse my little blip. My phone told me that it couldn't broadcast and I was about to have a small cow. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Stewart. I am the lead financial coach and founder of Do Better Financial. Welcome to this opposite of last Monday. Last Monday I was really excited about fall weather, and today I walked outside and it felt like a mouth. So, welcome to Houston. Anywho, today's video is going to start off much like last week's video. I'm going to ask anybody who is able and willing to help the islands of the Caribbean nations that have been affected by Hurricane Maria and Jose and all the other hurricanes that have blown through there in the last few days. Hi, Chris. Thanks for joining us today. In the last few months, to find out, go and search a way to help them out. I am not particularly familiar with any charities that are on the ground there, but Charity Navigator is a great website and you can go and check out. They will give you the 411 on exactly how those charities will be helping in places like Puerto Rico, Dominica, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and all the other Caribbean islands. Hi, Thomas. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Sam. Thanks for joining us. And what's really going to be happening, hi, Phyllis. Thanks for joining us today. What's going to be happening is over the next few months and weeks, not only will they be trying to survive, they're going to be trying to rebuild. So if you have anything right now, or if you can put it in your budget for further down the line, I promise you they'll still need it. Promise. Second, want to send out prayers to the people affected who have been either shot or whose families have lost loved ones in Las Vegas. There was a shooting either yesterday evening or early this morning. I'm not really sure. I know at least 50 people are dead, and hundreds other have been injured. And we just want to pray for the people of Las Vegas. There was I believe it was at Mandalay Bay. It was a guy. He was killed in the process of them trying to apprehend him. I'm not actually sure what his purpose was for opening fire into a large crowd that was attending a concert there. But our prayers are with Las Vegas. Oh, there we go. Thank you. 59 dead now and 527 injured. So the numbers keep climbing. And yeah, unfortunately, this is par for the course nowadays. Last but not least, one more update. The FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, I always have to read that because I say it backwards, FAFSA, is now open. So if you have a student or are a student and will be attending school in the fall of 2018, you should go ahead and go on there and fill that out. The earlier you fill it out, the better, because a lot of schools have moved up their deadlines for letting you know, not all schools, particularly private schools, have moved up their deadlines for letting you know what your financial aid award will be. Hi, Cherie. Thanks for joining us today. So those are my 3 updates. Let's get into today's video. It is about smartphones. Obviously, I am coming to you live from a smartphone, so I personally have one. I want to start with that before anybody tells me that I'm telling everybody that they can't have a cell phone. That's obviously not what I'm saying, or a smartphone. But technology has advanced quite a bit in the last 15 years. My first smartphone I got when I was a junior in high school, and it was a pay-as-you-go flip phone. It was even the kind with a little extended antenna. It was nothing special. I had it for 2 years. I could talk, I could text, and of course it was pay as you go. I think texts were like 15 cents each. Let you know how long ago that was. There was no such thing as data. The fanciest thing on it was that you could play Snake. But it worked. It probably would have cost about $30, and it served its purpose. You could drop it, you could slam it, you could probably run your car over it, and it'd be fine. The second phone I had, which was my personal favorite, was a Nokia 6800. If you are not familiar with this phone, go look it up. Me and my mom both had one. I think my cousin Brittany also had one. This was like our favorite phone, okay? I had this phone for 4 years. I only ended up getting rid of it. Hi, Erica. Thanks for joining us today. I only ended up getting rid of it because I wanted to upgrade, because who doesn't want the new hotness? And you don't want to know what I upgraded to. But anyway, I had it for 4 years. It never actually broke. I ended up giving it to somebody else, and I don't know what happened to it after I gave it to them because I really wanted it back. But it had a full QWERTY keyboard. It opened like this, so the screen ended up in the middle, and you typed with both your thumbs. It was magic. I loved that thing. Everybody thought I was crazy, but it fit in my pocket or my purple pouch. If you knew me in college, it was not a Hennessy bag. Everybody used to say, not Hennessy, it was not a Crown Royal bag. Everybody thought it was a Crown Royal bag. I got it at the Renaissance Festival. Anyway, but it had full QWERTY keyboard and FM radio, and it fit in my pocket. I never got a razor. I kept seeing people sit on them and break them. This one, I put it in my pocket, and I could sit on it. I could ride my bike on it. That sucker didn't go anywhere, and nothing ever broke. It was wonderful. But after that, around 2008-ish, I did get a different type of phone. And over the last few years, I've probably had 4 or 5 phones, probably less than a lot of you. Yeah, that's 10 years. So it's probably about right. About every two years-ish. One of those phones was just a replacement because I broke the other one, but that's a separate story. Anyway, so some of them were free. So that last phone I was telling you about, the Nokia 6800, it was probably free. They retail for $80, and I say retail, they don't sell them anymore, but if you look them up online, they would be $80. But we probably got it for free because they still did that then. And I've had phones that range from free to, I don't really want to talk about how much those phones cost. But we're going to talk about phone choice and phone price in a minute. I really want to start by talking about the pros and cons of being connected, and you'll see why in a second. So obviously one of the big ones is that you can actually talk to people who aren't near you. That's a pretty simple one. Being able to stay connected to family, especially if they're in other countries. Things like FaceTime and Google Hangouts allow us to actually see our friends and family, those who are in the military. So things like that are definitely perks. Keeping up with your kids. I know that's actually why I got my first cell phone, because my mom wanted to be able to keep in touch with, when I first got my first car, they wanted me to be able to contact, the authorities or whatever if I got in trouble. So, or if I needed help, whatever it is. And I had one for a little bit before that, just because when I was getting picked up from band practice, yes, I was a band nerd. If you didn't know, I'm a human jukebox. But, they wanted to be able for me to contact them when necessary. GPS, obviously, when you're traveling, it's a lot easier to have the phone go, you are here, and this is the way you go, than trying to figure out maps or to wrestle with maps. And then you have knowledge at your fingertips, right? You type in your phone, or you say to your phone, Siri, tell me where. Siri, who is, you don't have to think anymore when you're trying to think of the name of that guy in that movie from that place or whatever. You can just bring it right up. Some of the cons is that face-to-face interaction tends to decrease. Hi, James. Thanks for joining us today. It's one of those things where if I can call you or text you, or rather if I can text you, we don't even call people very much anymore, but if I can text you or call you, I might not see you. It used to be if I needed a cup of sugar, I'm going to walk across the street, I'm going to talk to my neighbor, things like that. And I mean, obviously that's been a while back, but at the same time, if you can play video games in the house, why go outside and play? And, that's part of technology, not just cell phones in general. There's also the cybersecurity concerns, people who are paying for things with their cell phones, and, living on their cell phones. They shop on their cell phones. They I don't know if anybody does their taxes on their cell phones, but I'm sure it's coming. They budget on their cell phones. They do everything on their cell phones. They keep track of a lot of their very personal information on their cell phones. So, there's cybersecurity concerns just by your device itself, let alone the information that it conceals, if somebody can get to it. And I know there are some that protect you, but they can only protect you so much. Things like Wi-Fi are rife with people who are just trying to steal your information, or unsecured Wi-Fi. And the biggest one, and this is specifically for adults and kids, is decreased attention spans. Yeah, I think the average attention span nowadays is about 8 seconds, they said. You really have to catch somebody in the first 8 seconds, and it's actually decreasing. 8 seconds. That's not very long. And this is adults, not the kids. There's no telling how short their attention spans are. So here, you got all those things. It's not inherently bad, right? It's kind of like a brick. I can either throw a brick through a window, or I can build a house. Hi, Nana Johnson. Thanks for joining us today. Or I can throw it through a window, or I can use it to build a house. Nothing wrong with the brick. It's what I do with the brick, right? So when it comes to technology, specifically our smartphones, we are attached to these things. 97% of people who have smartphones say that they keep them with them all the time. I think it's like 15% of people say that they check them first thing in the morning. Like, wake up, first thing you're doing is picking up your cell phone. I don't know if you're checking emails, checking Facebook, checking the weather, doesn't matter. That's the first thing you do when you wake up. And that fear of missing out, right? They call it FOMO. Fear of missing out keeps us connected to our phones, but sometimes it disengages us and makes us absent from our own lives. So this is when I started out with this. No matter how much you pay for your phone, I want to encourage you to take time. Yes, there was a time when cell phones were actual bricks. I saw a picture, and it made me laugh. But yeah, I want you to encourage you to take time to disengage from your technology. It's not uncommon for me to be on the phone with somebody and actively scrolling through Facebook, Instagram, or my email. And while I may be listening, newsflash, multitasking is a farce. You're not actually doing two things at once. You're doing two things poorly. That's really what it boils down to. So I'm going to encourage you, when you're sitting down to dinner, when you're, in the car with your kids, put the phones away. When you're on the phone, actually talking to somebody, put your phone down. Actually talk to them, engage, pay attention. And if you guys aren't talking about anything, well, that's separate. But if you're actually having a conversation, be in the conversation. You'd be surprised what you've been missing. All right, now to the numbers. So these new phones, of which I have one, I'm not going to lie, I bought a generation old new hotness because I am still frugal. This is why I do what I do, right? But these new phones can run you anywhere from $620, $30, and that's like for, I think, the Galaxy 8, all the way to $1,200 and some change, which is for the iPhone X 255 gigabyte, 65 gigabyte, whatever it is, fanciness. Yes, $1,200. Woo! In 2016, and now this was prior, in 2016, hi Cameron, thanks for joining us today. Most people aren't paying that. I'll just say that. Most people aren't paying that outright. Very few people are walking into the store and handing over a check for $1,200 or $1,000 or anything, or $500 or any of that. They are using what is called, then there's a name for these payment plans, but it's like equipment installment plan or something like that. So I think it's called an EIP. Yeah, it's high. It's ridiculous. I can't fathom it. It gave me a heart attack to buy a computer that cost that much. I can't imagine buying something that's in my pocket that I'm gonna have to replace in 2 years, or should replace in 2 years because it's gonna break, because they're very fragile. Anyway, that's separate. We'll talk about that later. But most people are not paying full price for these phones. They're gonna use that installment plan, which will lower those $600, $1,200 costs to somewhere in the neighborhood of $25 a month to $100 a month. And it's probably higher. About half of people were doing it in 2016. If you're getting a $1,200 phone, chances are you gonna use a payment plan. So most of these agreements seem to be pretty straightforward. 24 months, and they split up whatever your total is over 24 months. You pay it, and it's done. Most of them don't seem to have any gotchas. One of the things that I was concerned about was that they were going to try and make me pay some kind of lump sum to actually own my phone, or that they wouldn't allow me to pay the thing off whenever I had the money, but they do. Yeah, my brother-in-law is special. His phones last a little longer than most people. You should talk to John Sanders about how to make your phone last 5 years and actually function. Erica, he could probably, have a market, because these things are getting really expensive. Anywho, there are some that have leasing programs. I think Sprint's the only one that has a leasing program that I could find. Those terms can be a little more confusing as far as what I was reading. But again, they seem to be pretty straightforward. You just have to they're not hiding it on purpose. It's just a more complicated plan. So while I personally wouldn't suggest a plan, I hate owing people money. It seems pretty transparent, and there don't seem to be any hidden fees as of yet. So if that's something that you'd like to do, put your phone on a plan. Make your choice. I don't like owing people. I just like to pay for stuff, but that's just me. So here's the thing. I don't really want to talk too much about how for your cell phone. It's like how to pay for them. Obviously, you could save up and pay for it, or you could put it on a payment plan. I want to talk about why you want that cell phone. Twist. So, in the course of hunting for my new cell phone, I personally just got a new cell phone myself. I was very frustrated by the, how shall I say, by the seeming few choices that were in the market. Now, this was a fallacy. There are actually quite a few cell phone choices on the market. They may not be offered by your carrier. You may have to buy them unlocked, which frequently means you have to pay cash, but there are a lot of other options, and one of those options that I saw was when I was at Best Buy. It was a phone called Blue. I looked it up, had great reviews, never heard of it, and it made me start thinking, why are the only phones that I really hear about Samsung and iPhone? One word: marketing. Samsung and iPhone have done a very good job, and don't get me wrong, obviously, there's HTC and there's LG, and there are some others. There's Google. There's I think this Google's is the Pixel, and there's the there's some others. But primarily, when people are talking about a cell phone or you see one on TV, it's Samsung or iPhone. That's what you see, because they have the biggest marketing budgets, they have the biggest shares of the market, and that's what people are, that's what they want you to think everyone is buying. That's what marketing is. It's convincing you that you need this thing, particularly when other people have it. So there are so many features, even on the phone that I bought, there are so many features. Let's talk about something like the iPhone X, which there are lots of features that it has that were already existing on other Samsungs. I know Android users, I am aware, but this is the one that came out last, so we're going to talk about it, okay? It has facial recognition and iris scanning and, fingerprint scanning, and most of the iPhones have this, I'm aware. But, it's got all this stuff. It's got 12 megapixel cameras, and I don't even know what all else these things do. They've got these fancy boards that'll run, faster than the speed of light. And in reality, and this is from I will find this and post it. Hi, Monet, thanks for joining us today. This is from a person who tests cell phones for a living. I think he's at CNET, or there's one other that I can't remember the name of, but they test cell phones. This is their day job. He's like, even though I test these phones to make sure that they're, they have the snappiest recovery and, they have the latest operating systems that's going to move faster between your apps and this, that, and the other. He's like, in reality, most people use their phones for three things: social media, talk, text, communication, and, well, actually, it's all communication. Social media, talking and texting, and email, and web searching. I'm sorry, 4 things. Web searching in general. You will watch some videos, but are most people watching full feature-length films on their phones? No. Can you? On some of these fancy phones, you definitely can, but that's not what most people use their phones for most of the time. So a lot of these features, while they're amazing, you may not need them. I know. On an everyday basis, do you really need to carry a Mercedes-Benz cell phone in your pocket? Mercedes-Benz, where'd you get that from? These phones are luxury items. I mean, if we're really talking about it, you got a video recorder, I'm going to call it a semi-professional camera. It might be professional, but I'm going to go with semi-professional because it doesn't have detachable lenses, and also because there's not a professional behind the camera. Semi-professional camera, you've got a computer, and a phone, right? You've got these 4 amazing things that technically are all separate, that have been smashed into one small device and in your pocket. It's a Mercedes. You've got a Mercedes of communication devices in your pocket. It's a luxury item. So how do we treat luxury items? How do I treat luxury items? If something is a luxury, I pay cash. Why? Because it feels different when you pay cash. Let's paint a picture, okay? You want an iPhone X. How about if when you went to buy your iPhone X, you had to hand the cashier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 with tax, $100 bills. It feels different. And it also makes you stop and think, what else could I buy with this money? Do I really want this phone? Man, if I just take one of them hundreds, we could go have a nice dinner. And and on and on and on. And I felt that way and this is because I feel a little different when I swipe my card. When I saw that number on the screen, I was like, Lord Jesus, oh, the things I could buy. But I had decided that what I wanted, that's not true. I decided what I wanted, and then it burned me. If you want to know that story, I mean, literally, if you want to know that story, just ping me later. It burned me, so I went with the next thing that I thought I wanted. And it's working out okay. But it's convenient, it's fun, but it's a luxury. So if you're going to buy this luxury phone, do it in cash. See how you feel later. Don't buy into this hype that you have to have a certain type of phone or that you have to have the newest type of phone. Yes, they improve things. Yes, things get better. Yes, there are things on the new phones that you can't get on the old ones. For instance, they have the, I think it's called portrait, where you can blur the background in some of these new phones because they have 2 cameras where you can blur the back and you can, stabilize the front. Is it cool? Yes. Do you need it? Probably not. So if you are thinking right now about buying a phone, let me give you some tips. I want you to start with a budget. How much, not just monthly, but total, do you want to spend on this phone? And I say total because in reality, when we think, oh, it's just $25 a month. No, it's a $600 phone. Ask yourself if you want to spend $600 on a phone and go from there. If you decide that you want to spend $600 on a phone, then okay. If $25 a month is how you're going to do it, that's up to you, not what I'm going to suggest. However, pick your budget first, then go look for a phone. So figure out what you need. Are you a person who is constantly playing video games on your phone? You might need a snappy phone. And I'm not talking about Angry Birds. I'm talking about some first-person shooter, you need immediate reaction time type game, okay? That's actually a funny story. That's why I bought my first smartphone. I wanted to play Angry Birds. Anywho, so figure out what you really need. What kind of pictures do you really need to take? Go to the store. I did this when I was in the store. I took a phone that said it had a 10 megapixel camera and put it next to a phone that said it had 12. And I was like, is it different? A little. Was I going to notice if I didn't have this other phone next to it? No. Figure out what you need. Third, research your options. Amazon is your friend in this. There are going to be a lot more options online than what you can find necessarily in the store to look at. And if you do what I'm about to say, the last one, you can buy whatever you want and just port it over to your carrier. You can also use places like Best Buy, and they have the phones in hand, a lot of different types other than just Samsung and iPhone that you can kind of play around with. And it's not just those stores. You can do, what's the name of it? Micro Center has a lot of phones on display that you can play around with, and it'll give you an opportunity to touch and feel them rather than just buying without knowing exactly what you're getting. So research your options. And fourth, and my favorite, save up and pay cash. You will feel different if you have to hand somebody, $100 bills to purchase your luxury item. You'll also have the opportunity, like I said, and so obviously if you buy it on Amazon, you can't pay cash, but you can buy different types of phones that aren't necessarily offered by your carrier, but that would be supported, that will fit your needs, and that will fit your budget. So if you are trying to figure out how you're going to afford this $1,200 phone and you want to accept my challenge to pay cash, and you need some help figuring out where it's going to come from in your budget or figuring out if it should come from somewhere in your budget, you feel free to email me at christian@dobetterfinancial.com, or you can go to dobetterfinancial.com, my website, which is up and running. Go check it out, and you can request a consultation there as well. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I want to remind you that in a couple weeks we're going to be starting our Christmas challenge, so we can help you build your Christmas budget so that it doesn't end up being a holiday hangover come January. I will see you next week. Have a great evening.